Bing. Okay. Let me ask you guys, does this ever describe your trading where you feel like you're caught in a trade, you thought that the seller stepped in, you thought buyer stepped in, you've seen a big engulfing candle, and yet you get wicked out. Yet the trade goes completely against you, but only later on to come back to that zone. You feel like you're the one who the liquidity used as a trap. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys so much free sauce today. I'm going to show you guys how to identify if you're the one trapped or you're the one being trapped in the markets. So without further ado, make sure you guys like, comment, do all that stuff on YouTube. Come over to the school community where I teach you guys how to do this every single day live, by the way. Live every day. So without further ado, let's get into the actual video of how I teach you guys. Are you the ones being caught in the shorts or in the longs? Are you the ones being trapped by the market makers? Let's get into it. All right. We are at the charts. So the easiest way I'm gonna give you guys, I got a few examples here for you, but the easiest way to determine if you are a trader who's trapped in a short, in a buy, you feel like, man, am I the liquidity? Am I the market maker? You know, what's going on? Why am I always feeling like the market rips up in one direction and I see shorting opportunity to counter trend trade, or I see an opportunity to buy and I'm the one just getting trapped all the time? I'm going to show you guys today in a few examples I got ready for you guys how we're going to do it. And these are actually great examples because this is what the market's been doing as of late. Example number one, really easy on how to determine if you are the buyer that's trapped in a downstream or the seller that's trapped in a rip up. So we're going to look at this first. Example number one is this is actually today on 7/11/25. 7/11, free 7/11 today. I got to go to 7-Eleven and get myself a free Slurpee. Hold up. Anyways, so I'm going to show you guys the easiest way that where I'm going to put my take profits if I'm counter trend trading to show you guys. And I did this, by the way, live. So literally on Discord, I was drawing up all these levels live, so that you guys know I'm not lying about it. You guys can join live. It's on school. It's only a few bucks a month, but watch the video. This is a lot of free sauce. I give this sauce for free away. Essentially, I give it to the community, but I'm giving it to you guys for free on YouTube. So I appreciate you guys watching this. And I really do hope you do appreciate this. Okay. So the easiest way for me to determine where there are trapped buyers, sellers, doesn't really matter. We need a clean cut direction in the market, right? We can see it here. We've got a super clean cut all the way back down, essentially zero retesting. Zero retest. We have just essentially pushed straight down. The market has not alleviated any pressure off of itself. So a lot of people who talk or trade fair value gaps, this is essentially kind of the same thing, but I'm targeting specifically liquidity pools where I know that buyers or sellers are trapped in. So let's get into a deeper dive of it. So we can see that we have a lot of active sellers here. If we don't look at the delta and we look at just candlesticks, we can see we've got big sellers, right? But in between these moves, the delta is showing us other things where buyers are stepping in, but the candle's still forming red. So mentally I start making notes. Okay, let's see, does this ever want to bounce? And we have essentially here what I would call my first trapped buyer. Buyers formed the candle green. The delta was still negative, but it didn't actually want to push this thing up at all. Let me get rid of this real quick for you guys. So it didn't want to push this at all to retest our zone up here. So essentially all it did was it was a fake out. Buyers got trapped in here. Now we're going to wait and see if we get buyers trapped again. We go down a few more candles, and would you look at that, we get once again positive delta, red candle. We still wait. We got a green candle here, positive delta. So once again, I would assume, okay, maybe this thing will push back up into the area where we're trapped, right? We were trapped up here, and I'm just going to wait to see, does it want to bounce and alleviate any of the pressure? Remember, market does, especially NQ and ES, it does like to be somewhat balanced. There are days where it might just rip up straight or straight down. Yes, but overall, the market does want to be balanced. It doesn't want just to go up forever or down forever. So essentially what we're going to keep doing is we're going to keep waiting. Now I know that there are buyers essentially trapped here. Now I know that there are buyers essentially trapped here. Now we can see, of course, we have the market this was at market open. We can see that eventually we did alleviate some of the pressure here, but the point of this is that when you look on the delta, you look on anything that gives you a level 2 data, you can start reading this and knowing that, okay, if this thing shorts one more time. So we create one more leg down. I'm going to start looking at maybe taking buys down here where I teach you guys how to identify absorption, right? So I teach you guys how to identify absorption. I would have started looking now at this second leg down. This leg didn't perform like I needed it to. So this was not a good leg, but this is where a lot of buyers were trapped, as well as here. Now we pushed a second time down. We got a huge wick essentially to this downside, and we got a lot of sellers right here. Bright red. You can see it. You can't miss it. Few candles later, we see that the delta chain starts forming positive. So buyers are stepping in here. Sellers are getting out of some positions. We wait 2 more candles. So literally, this is on the 10 seconds. So 20 seconds later, we see a big green engulfing candle. We haven't swept these lows yet. And we got positive delta to push this thing back up. All I would have looked for was a TP here. So if I put let's put a line here. I would have bought here at this level down here, and I would have essentially targeted up here where I know that they're trapped. So I hope that makes sense because it's super easy to read for me, but if it doesn't for you, please join the school community. Like I said, it's only a few dollars. I teach you guys this live every day if you are struggling with it. But all you need to essentially look at is, okay, I know that there's a trap here. There's another trap here. So I'm going to just wait for another leg down. Show me the delta really super bright and show me the fact that is there going to be a bounce here? We looked, these other candles could not break this low like it did here and then it did here. We could not break the low. We've seen a positive delta change. We confirmed it that the delta did go positive down here as well as an actual engulfing candlestick, a green candlestick. So buyers did show that there is enough power here. And then we pushed right back up into the alleviated pressure. Very simple. Very, very simple. Once you guys get used to looking for this. And you can do this too on regular candlesticks. So I'll go after this. We'll go to the next example without the delta for the people who do not trade order flow or, order flow or whatever, anything, delta, any series 2 booking. So we're going to just go to an example next that's just for people who trade charts alone. All right, example 2. This is without now delta. This is the people who just trade naked traders like I used to be. This is going to be an example of how I identify where they are trapped just within the 10-second range. And once again, super simple once you train your eye, right? All you guys have to do is get a lot of data under your belt. Sit here every single day when the market is open, get your drawing tools out, or take screenshot what's happening. And then when you go to live trading, you start executing off of that, okay? So we're gonna make this very simple as well, just to identify where there are trapped buyers, where there are trapped sellers. So let's get into this example too. So we can see that market up here opened up, pushed up really high. We can see that it absorbed essentially up here at, let's call it 950, 22,950. Since here, we did get absorption 1, absorption 2, and then we had a change of structure moving to the downside. So if I know that I want to see where there are trapped buyers and sellers, I'm going to wait for this to make a move and essentially just keep waiting for this thing to go lower, and then I'm going to start buying what's called like clearance items or buying on sale, right? So I know that sellers are in control, sellers have been in control since market open at 9:30, and it came all the way down here about 15 minutes later, and then we started seeing a change of character. But that's not what we're trying to identify in this video. What I'm going to show you guys is where they're trapped, right? So we can identify here that we are in an overall downtrend. Very simply, right? Like I said, I don't need to go to level 2 data. I don't need footprints or delta to identify where they are because I know I've trained my brain to do it now for so many years. All I'm going to do is look for a clean cut direction where I see buyers that they couldn't bounce. So we got a bounce here. So this to me is they did alleviate the pressure here. We got a small Elliott wave here. So very small wave in here. But when I start where I'm going to start seeing where they're trapped is areas like this. Can you guys see that? Does this make sense? So we got a small wave up, alleviated the pressure, pushed back down, small wave back up, alleviated a little bit of pressure. But here's really where you want to pay attention, right? So let's get rid of all these arrows so you guys know. Right here is where we want to start paying attention. Here and here, where we got essentially zero bouncing. We essentially just push straight down, Candle went green on the 10-second, showing that buyers did try to step in, but it did nothing. And then we had another push down. Once again, a doji down here, small green candle, another buyer trapped. We pushed down, same thing. We're essentially getting no bouncing. Right? Until we start coming down here and we start seeing, okay, now we can start looking. Now we should know something that there's areas here and there's an area here where buyers are trapped. All I need to do is essentially wait this thing out, either start shorting off of something, start going long to take a bounce off of the next wave. So not this candle here, because this candle here, yes, was engulfing, but you still have to be very, very cautious of, is this going to bounce here? And I would have liked to confirm that this was a bottom opposed to going lower. So what I would have liked to do is you wait here for it to form either a second big candle that engulfed here, or even something down here, or something down here, in order to push this thing back up, right? You never have FOMO when trading. And especially too, if you guys want to look at it, like the minute this pressure got alleviated here, look at what happens on the charts, right? It rips down. We finally get a bounce back into our pressure where buyers are trapped. And then we get a big red candle. Same thing happened here. We tested it. We got another wick, another big red engulfing candle. So you could have essentially shorted off of these two red candles in order to target the low down here if you wanted to go with the trend. But if we wanted to counter trend this, all I would really do is I'm going to wait to see if we get support and resistance down here at the bottom, which I believe, let's call it the perceived bottom. And I'm going to essentially wait, see if this thing gives me an engulfing candle back into our liquidity pool, show me if buyers want to step in, try to take a buy off of this, and then I'm going to just target the zone one. I don't really necessarily need to target all the way up here where I know they were trapped at the beginning of the day. I'm just going for quick 5 to 7 point scalps over and over and over again, just to try to alleviate as much pressure as I can for the trapped buyers, the trapped sellers. And this works both ways. It can work in a multitude of ways. I'm going to go over another example right after this. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. If you guys have any other questions about it, like I said, please just shoot me a message on YouTube or on the school community. But let's go over to number 3. Example number 3, I wanted to show you guys a not so perfect example, something that took way longer than I thought it would, but it still works out, but sometimes it just takes way too long. And of course, if you're trading too heavy of size, you could blow an account. But I'm going to show you guys, this is a kind of a bad example, but I wanted to show you guys that this is not just a perfect scenario, right? I'm just trying to identify for you guys where you would be in the market if you were a buyer that's trapped or a seller that's trapped. So let's get into this one now. We can see that we are in an uptrend, obviously. So if we just looked blindly, we should be able to see that starting here at 947, we've pushed up, we've retested, we've pushed up, we've retested, we pushed up. Now, once again, you're going to zoom in, especially if you're on the Delta. There's another Delta example. If you don't want a Delta example, go to example number 2 right before this. That's just on the charts, naked charts. But we can start seeing here on the Delta a lot of negative change happening here in this candle right there. But the candle itself is still forming green. So we know that sellers try to be apparent here. They sold off a lot, but nothing happened, right? The next candle over, we push higher. We started seeing, again, sellers trying to step up here. And then you kind of we would look all the way up here, where we get our first, essentially, red candle, red delta, double red delta, which is a delta change, and a delta bar itself being negative. And we're going to start being interested here to see if we want to alleviate any of the pressure that's built up here, right? It doesn't mean it has to. It just means that that's what we're looking for. If I'm going to counter trend trade this in an uptrend, I'm going to look to see where there are trapped sellers. And there's a trapped seller here. We know there's some trapped sellers essentially, not really up here, but more here. And then we're just going to keep going. Now, this is, like I said, this is not a great example. It took a while for us to actually play this example out. And if I need to, let's actually go here. Let's draw a line, a ray that goes far enough. But you can start seeing, though, right? We can start seeing why this is not a great example. It didn't essentially retest immediately like it did in example 1, but it still formed decently where we got a short. Yes, if you were to scalp this like I teach you guys, you could have caught yourself a quick 5.5, 5.25 points, and you would have made money. but we're talking about just to identify where they're trapped. So once again, you see we're in an uptrend. This wouldn't have been a trap down here because we essentially retested. We retested all the buyers to push it back up. This is where I know that they're trapped, and it does alleviate, but it takes time. Sometimes it just takes 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour, right? Sometimes it does take a long time to alleviate that pressure built up here. So it did do it here, though, where we essentially are now in an uptrend. Sellers did try to get active down here on the delta. Very small delta itself, only -10, but the actual delta change became quite large. Still, candle is green, candles are green, candles are green, candles are green. Our first ever confirmation of sellers trying to step out or step up here, where it's a red candle with negative delta. Would I have preferred this to be a bright red candle or a bright red delta with an engulfing red? So for sure for me to get pushed down? Absolutely. But the market's never perfect. Neither is anyone's strategy. Mine, the next guys, the next girls, it doesn't matter. Trading is risky, right? You have to know that not everything will be perfect all the time. This is trading in a nutshell. So I just hope that you guys understand that. But we can look here. We keep going down. We keep scrolling down. And look how long it took us, right? Look how long essentially it took us. We got really close right here to get alleviated. So we did technically take off some of the pressure in this area right there. We did take off a little bit of the pressure. You could have essentially, like I said, scalped this. If you took it from up here, you would have caught yourself like about 6.5 or 6.25 points. I'm sorry. But for us to get the full alleviation, it took way too long. It took us essentially all the way down here about an hour later. Like I said, this is not a great example, but this is just to show you guys where trapped buyers and sellers are, how to identify that they're trapped, and how not to get trapped maybe yourself the next time you trade. So next time you see in an uptrend, in a downtrend, and if you see something that pops up like this, so let's go back, where we can look at this on the candles and we can look at this on level 2, delta, heat map, any of that, we can see that where they're trapped and not to be the one being trapped. All I'm trying to do is save you guys a few bucks, save you guys a headache of not being the one who's trapped here, right? So easiest way to identify it, even not on the delta, is you are in a trend, uptrend, downtrend, doesn't matter. And we can look at this in both ways. We'll look at this just a candlestick. So we see big engulfing, green candlestick, bouncing off. We got a little bit of a green here, another big green, and it just keeps forming green, but we've yet to actually retest, right? We've yet to actually retest this little area here. We are just holding this hostage, essentially. We are holding this hostage here. We start seeing some alleviation up higher, but it takes, like I said, took us essentially an hour to get out of it, right? But as long as we know that there is a seller or a buyer trapped here, we can know, okay, it's somewhat safe to start trying to short to get back into swinging back into this area. I'm never going to target the bottom of this candle. I more or less will target, I always make a box, but I'll target like essentially the entire box of this or even a little bit higher in order to see it. And then of course you can make confirmation if you have delta. If you don't have delta, go and join the school community. I'll help you set up your delta if you're a Ninja trader like me or anything else. I can help you set up your data, your settings, all that jazz. And then, like I said, you can see it here physically. We could see how many sellers were apparent here, but nothing actually happened. It just kept pushing higher, 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 until eventually, about an hour later, we did alleviate some of this pressure, but it does take sometimes a long time. In comparison to example 1, it took us maybe 15 minutes. In example 3 now, it took us an hour. So I hope that this video opens your eyes a little bit more to where buyers and sellers are trapped. Hopefully this gives you guys some sort of clear cut. Now you can see, oh, okay, I do see that I was a trapped buyer here, or I was the trapped seller here. I was the one that got trapped essentially in this market. And hopefully you guys don't make the same mistake again. Last but not least, I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you guys always give the glory to God. God is always there for you. Really take a deep dive and look in your life and see how great God has always been to you. I can only say thank you, God, every single day for how great of a God I have, that when I didn't know how to get out of the storm, God provided a way. And remember, we have to truly give our life to surrender, to give up control and let Christ take control of our life, because in God's hands, he can do everything, right? I've got so many people who get payouts, who everything that the minute they are grateful to God and they they're missing that one key of that they were trying their hardest to, do it their way or the highway. But the minute they give their life to God, the minute that they surrendered, the minute everything, God will open up those doors for you. I pray that this opens a door for you today. And I pray for you, your family, and everybody to come to Jesus, that he is the life, the way, the truth. No one goes to the Father except through him. May this video bless you and every video after this. And I pray that you guys have an absolute great day. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.